First of all, let me say that I am thrilled to have my friend and young gunner,
There you go.
Alabama Republican Party Chairman John Wahl, joining me again. And even though I've come to see you this time, instead of you coming to see me, we still got to kick things off with a joke.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, tell me a joke.
You know, I was just thinking about this joke the other day. We just had this presidential debate, right, between Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
Okay.
And they're both old.
Right.
Like, let's not sugarcoat it. Age challenge, like whatever the politically correct version of old is.
Okay.
And it reminded me of an old Ronald Reagan joke. When he was debating his opponent the second time when he's running for re-election, his opponent was using his age against him. And he started off in the debate, and the moderator asked him, they're like, what, is your age a concern? And he said, the first thing I want to bring up is that I will not hold age or the inexperience of my opponent against him.
I remember that.
And that has to be one of the best political jokes of all time. He flipped the entire premise of the question on the head and turned it from a negative to a positive.
That's right. Now, why can't you hear a pterodactyl going to the bathroom?
My pterodactyl experience is limited. I've not seen many, so I'm gonna defer and say I don't know.
The P is silent.
Now that is a joke, my friend.
That is a good joke. Everybody thinks I'm joking here when I say that you think I'm joking when I say you're my favorite chairman.
I don't know that I think you're joking. I'm my favorite.
Okay, absolutely. I want to point out again that you are one of the youngest party chairmen. Correct me. You are the youngest.
I think I am still the youngest. I was checking into that at this RNC meeting just a few weeks ago. I was like, did anybody get elected younger? And so far not.
So you are still the youngest party chairman in the country.
That's right. I'm getting older. I didn't have any gray hair when I got elected at 34. I'm getting some gray hair, but I'm holding on to that title, youngest state party chairman in the country. So
you are verifying that holding office gives you some gray hair.
There's no doubt about
it. Let's jump right into it. I'm here. I live in District 52. I'm here with you. Tell me, are we going to break some news, or are we still thinking about it and want to explain the thought process?
Yeah. I think whether it's House District 52 or any of the other, potential special elections we have in rural and minority areas, we're looking for candidates who represent their communities well. And by that, I mean, it's not about demographic. It's about who could be a strong candidate, who can actually go to Montgomery and bring things home for their constituents. So we don't have a candidate in the race in House District 52. I hope that will change. I hope we'll find a candidate that would do a good job and be able to really push and fight for that position, but more importantly for their constituents, for the citizens, of community members who make up that district, who in honesty have been overlooked for years. I think that's the saddest part of so many of these districts around the state. When you have a complacency and leaders who are there to make a point, they're not really there to help their citizens. And I think House District 52 is one of these. And I think hopefully we can find a candidate who can fight for the rights and the freedoms and just their community, making sure their community is successful. And I hope we can get that done both for House District 52, but also for so many districts across the state.
When you look at a House District 52 or a Democrat or Republican area that could go either way.
Yep, some of these swing districts.
What is your message? What do you have to say? What does the GOP bring to the table that, just quite honestly, from my perception, some Democrats have overlooked over the years?
That's a great question, because I think if we're honest about our goals, whether you're a Republican, whether you're independent, whether you're a Democrat, we should all have the same end target, and that's that we want to help people have a better life. We want to help people be successful. We want to help their children have a brighter future. We want their communities to be safe, and we want them to be able to live free. And if that's how we look at it, we should all be working towards the same end, and just the debate is over what policies are best to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you ask me, what do I, as a Republican, as the leader of the Republican Party in Alabama, what do I want to help, when I'm looking at these swing districts, what do I want to communicate? The number one thing is that as the Republican Party, I don't want to live your life for you. I want you to be free. And Democrats, we've grown more and more about controlling people's lives, about telling them what they should or how they should live or what they should do this or that. And the bottom line is the National Democrat Party has gotten to the point where they think they know how to live your life better than you do. And for me, I believe in the exact opposite. I want you to be free. I want you to be able to live your life the way you do. I want you to have school choice so you can have the same opportunities for your children as anyone else in the state. I want you to not have to be forced to take a vaccine if the federal government thinks that that's what's best for you. No, you know what's best for you. You know what's best for your family, what's best for your kids, what's best for your community. And so I want to return things and empower the individual again. I don't want to look at people based on groups or the mob rule, if you will. I want to look at every individual, talk about their God-given rights, talk about how I want to return those God-given rights to them and put them in the driver's seat of their lives, of their communities, and of their government.
When we talk about a District 52, I think a little bit of it is in Homewood, but the overwhelming majority is West End, it is Titusville, it is Woodland Park. It is an overwhelming Black electorate. And my question is, how, given our current political climate, what does that individual look like that you may want or be looking for to run against Kelvin Datcher?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, the big thing is
that, or what may they be talking about?
Right. That may be a better thing. Because when I think about an individual, somebody who I want to see, who I want to encourage to run for office, the number one thing I look for is someone who cares about their constituents, somebody who cares about the members of their community, because nothing replaces that. We see way too many people involved in politics who just want the power, want money, whatever it is, and their first priority isn't the people. And I think once again, this doesn't even matter your party. This shouldn't matter. Everyone should be looking at the same goal. We want to put people first, and we want public servants, people who are running for office to serve the public. So that's the number one thing I look for. It doesn't matter what background, what else. I want to see a heart for service for people, somebody who cares about it. And the next thing I'm looking for is someone who's talking to the people that they're supposed to serve. You're talking about the issues that are important to them. Right now that's so much about the economy. People are struggling to put food on the table.
Right.
It's a battle, especially for low income or middle class and families. People, it's getting harder and harder to afford housing. Look at the rent in Jefferson County. It's off the charts. Like people are having a hard time just providing a house and food for their children. And I think that's the biggest tragedy in this country, and why the economy is the biggest issue. And look, I don't want to be disrespectful to the Democrat Party, but they have failed. They have failed the people of America. They failed the people of Alabama. They have failed the people of Jefferson County. Democrat leadership has not worked because they don't understand. They keep spending money. And what they don't understand is when they spend money on the government level, that creates inflation, and it steals from all the poor folks who can't afford to put food on the table because their prices go up. And that they're the biggest victims to this big government approach are the little people who are being starved. And so I want to recognize that again. I want to go back to fiscal responsibility and say, no, our policies should help the little guy. They should help these families who are struggling. That's what government should be about. And I think so. That's the number one thing: making sure people are able to have a successful life, to put food on the table, to provide for their families. The other thing is, look, we know the southern border is a tragedy. We know that there are the Democrats' policies, the Biden administration. You can add Kamala Harris into this, the czar, the border czar. They have failed. And we know that the open border policies they've represented have made our communities less safe. It's increased drug overdoses. It's increased drug addictions and human trafficking. And it's time to close that, because if we close the border, it helps keep our community safer, but it also does things like helps housing prices come down, affordable housing for those who are struggling to find housing. So many of these immigrants who are flooding across the border are affecting Americans' lives.
Hold on, we're gonna get there.
Oh, you're gonna get there. Okay.
I wanna stay on the state and the district with one last wrap up, and that is, when you look at the last legislative session and look at the next legislative session, what did the Republicans accomplish, and what are they looking to accomplish that African Americans should look at and say, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
They're talking to me.
Yeah. What I love about this is there has been a shift since my time as party chairman. There has been a shift in the priorities. We really, as a party, the Republican Party has changed. It's kind of gone, and a lot of this I think we do owe to Donald Trump. The party has gone from kind of a more central establishment party, corporation-driven, wealthy, and it's really gone more to a blue-collar party. We're the party now standing up for the individuals. We're the party standing up for the little guy and the workers. And I think that's incredibly important because the focus of our policies have changed with that. One of the things we've seen recently was the party led the charge on cutting the grocery tax. This is something that Democrats have tried to do for 20 years and failed. But the Republican Party was like, no, you know what? People are struggling to put food on the table. They deserve to have that grocery tax cut because everyone deserves to eat. And we cut the grocery tax. We passed school choice. Once again, an incredibly important thing because so many of our African American communities are struggling to get a quality education for their kids. And if they get a good education, they can have that bright future. They deserve that future, and our children deserve that. And we wanted to make sure we pass school choice so everyone, whatever background you have, everyone has equal opportunities for a good education for their children. And that's so important. And then we did things like curriculum transparency, where we got a federal Department of Education who's sending some curriculum down that we don't agree with in Alabama. We don't believe in boys playing in girls' sports or drag queens going into girls' bathrooms. We believe that God created male and female, and that they're different, and we respect both. But we're going to make sure that we respect that and we keep our children safe from some of this indoctrination with the whole transgender woke stuff. And I think that's something that a lot of the African American community can agree with the party on.
You and I talk a lot, and I'm not quite as young as you, but I share my thoughts and feelings on that issue.
Yeah.
We have young people who are going to different bathrooms, the medical side of it, where they are doing the puberty blockers and all this kind of stuff. And I personally feel that message resonates with Black men as it relates to restoring families and family structures.
That's right. Well, and it goes back to foundational principles. And this is what I love when I'm talking to a voter. If you take the party out of it and you're just talking to someone about what do you believe? What do you believe? What do you think about an issue? And when I talk to, I've got a lot of friends. I played soccer when I was young, and I've got so many great friends that are foreign, different countries. That sport is a more international sport. So many, and when I'm talking to them, it's a mixed culture. They almost all agree this is a common sense issue. And once again, this is not about party. This is not about background, and it goes back to those fundamental principles. If we believe in truth, and scientific fact, and a moral foundation. I believe that our rights come from our Creator, and that our government was founded on this idea that the church is important, that Christianity is important. And these things, you can't just ignore these traditional family elements because it's what made our country great. And it's really what allowed us to be successful. And I think that's something the Democrat Party is forgetting. As they go more and more towards this thing where they're saying no, men can go in women's bathrooms if they say if they claim they're a woman, or I know a big thing.
Or the women that can play. I'm sorry, men that can play in girl sports.
Yes,
that's not fair.
It's disrespectful to women, 100%. And it's just it's a ignoring of the common sense reality. Like, look, we had a Supreme Court justice who was asked, can you define what a woman is? And she was like, no, I'm not a biologist. You know what I'm going to tell you right now? There's a bunch of people in this state, and there's a lot of African American and Black people just walking around who know more about that subject than she does. You don't have to be a biologist to tell the difference between a man and a woman.
Let's take a time out right here and shift to a little bit on the federal side, particularly with the Caroline Dobson and Shamari Figures race. Now, let me tell you where I am on that. On the one hand, I have a Black man. Irrespective of whether I agree with his politics, the fact that he is a Black man, I know that that's someone that can identify with me on a lot of different levels. Now, on the other hand, the person that espouses my values the most is a white woman. How should the people of District 2 navigate, particularly Black men, but as a whole, how should they navigate that concern?
I mean, look, that's a great question. I think this is something that we in America have need to answer as a society, because we've gotten into this idea of identity politics, where because you're in the same group, the same background, you want to identify with this person or that person. And I think that actually gets us into trouble, because what ends up happening is we forget the most important thing, which is that we're all children of Almighty God. And if we're all his children, then we're all brothers and sisters. And it doesn't matter what color your skin is, it doesn't matter what background you are, we are one with each other. And so that would be my thing. Let's not look at the identity politics. Let's not look at what this person looks like or what that person. Let's say, okay, what do you believe in? What are your values? Do you believe in the same things I do? Because in the end, that's what we should be looking for. Who represents what we believe in and will stand up for us and fight for us and what our values are. And I think if you look at this race, it's pretty clear. You got securing the border. You've got rebuilding the economy. You've got protecting our children from some of this stuff. These are all issues that Caroline Dobson is going to take the stand with the African American community far more than Figures.
Let me throw this at you. Let me throw one direct ball at you. With Caroline Dobson, I know I have someone that is going to fight for my values and beliefs at the border. And I've told you a million times, that's my number one priority.
Well, and it's big because it affects all the others. It affects our safety.
It affects the others.
Drug addiction, our economy,
and
affordable housing.
Keep going. That's what I'm asking. Tell me, other than immigration, what does she fight for? How does she fight for Black people in that district in Congress?
Well, look at what has been. Look at the areas that we see that would represent this district. You can look at the areas of District 7, Democrat leadership. What's being done for the rural areas of District 7? The answer is very little. There's something about this idea of economic rebuilding of actually helping people be successful. And that's what the Republican Party is about. And I think that's her message. It's not just symbolic. It's actually getting down into the nuts and the bolts and helping people have a better life, making sure they have access to, like I said, education. We actually want children to have an opportunity to make a better life for themselves. We still believe in the American dream. And I think that's the most important thing about this race. It's about making sure people have the tools they need and the opportunities they deserve to be successful. And I think that's economically, it's affordable housing, it's keeping our community safe, the drug addictions, respect on the international level, where we don't have to worry about sending our children off to fight wars they shouldn't even be in. I was reading something the other day, and it said if the money that was sent to Ukraine, and our foreign aid, if you took that money, instead of sending it there and you gave it to every homeless person in the country, it would be enough to buy every one of them actually get them into housing. Think about that. It's time to put America first. And I think that's probably the thing that's on the ballot this November. With Caroline Dobson, with the presidential race, do you want to put America first? Do you want to be put first again? Or do you want to continue to have these priorities be foreign countries? Do you want to have the priorities be woke agendas? Do you want to have the priorities be making sure your children are indoctrinated, that men and women are, you aren't born with a gender, you get to pick your gender after your whatever age? Do you want a government that targets these things, or do you want a government that's actually going to come in and try to help you have a better life and put you first again? That's what's on the ballot. I think that's what Caroline Dobson brings to the table across the board on every policy issue. It's about protecting, defending the rights and the freedoms of the individual and making sure they have the opportunity to succeed.
At the risk of scaring her, but I'm talking to a friend. How is she going to win people in the middle with some of her rhetoric? Was that to get through the primary? How do you address that?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times, obviously primary messaging is different than general. But I think even with her messaging in the primary, a lot of that actually is going to be more in line with the values of the people of District 2. I mean, look, when I am out there talking to the voters about what they're facing, what issues they care about, look, especially in rural Alabama, they agree with the Republican Party.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your background is, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. Like, when you just sit down and you talk about, like, if you took down and you looked at the Democrat platform and the Republican platform, and you check mark, I agree with this, I don't agree with this. If you take the party label off of it, look.
We agree with that 100%.
Right. We believe in faith. We believe
Right.
in family. We believe in freedom. And that's the key. There's so many areas where I think we overlap, even with that messaging in the primary, that I think actually does overlap with the
Well, I'm talking about the fake election. If you're fighting in a competitive district, I just think there are some things that are going to be hard to overcome in the general election.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I would want to look at the specifics, what those things were, what she would have said, to highlight each one, everyone's different, right? And different people have different opinions. But
I know I say some stuff to get through a primary.
Right? No, of course. But I also think there's so many opportunities in a campaign to share your heart, to share where you're at. And I think if you look at the vast majority of her messaging, it was actually in line with. Like, there might have been a few things here that she was asked for there, but I think her key platform planks, if you look at them, they're in agreement with the majority of the people of District 2, especially out in the rural parts of District 2. Where the church is still the central, still the pillars of the community.
Well, now I'm gonna push back on you. When it comes to voters, the church is there. There may be people who aren't in the church, but I reject that. They don't vote. We're talking to church going folk. We're talking to the pillars of society. We're talking to those with values like mine, like yours. And when it comes to that, yes, she's speaking that language.
Yeah, that's right. Look, it's a common sense language. It's a language of putting people first. Those values and those principles that are timeless. They go back to this idea that every single person is endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and government has no business stepping on those rights. And that's something that the Democrat Party is forgetting. And I think, especially, that should be concerning, especially to minorities, because a government that forgets that our rights come from our Creator will then decide they have the right to decide who should have rights and who shouldn't. And that's the fundamental difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party for years. It's the difference between a republic and a democracy. It's the idea that our rights come from our Creator, and the majority doesn't have a right to step on the minority. We believe in protecting everyone's right down to the individual.
One last thing, I know you are busy. Minorities are facing a completely different challenge now.
Yes, they are.
Sunday changed absolutely everything. And back to your earlier points, on a federal level, what does the GOP say to Black voters, females, brown voters who may have what appears to be who they want on the ticket? What about what they're saying? What about the policies? What do you have to say to those people who are not just hook, line, and sinker decided what they want to do based off whom they see, but what the policies are?
What the policies are. That's it. And that's the bottom line. No, my first thing to them would be to say, make sure they know that we want them. We are a party who has always embraced the idea that every individual is special. We were the party of Lincoln that said, no, slavery is wrong. We were the party in the civil rights movement who was like, the people of America deserve to be treated equally, no matter what your background is. And I think that continues today. Like, look, there's been a shift within the party. We've gone, like we talked about that earlier, gone from being a more establishment party to being a party of we the people again. And I think that's the Republican Party getting back to its roots, this populist movement. We want to get back to our roots. We want to get back to the party that's defending civil rights, that's protecting the individual, and that's standing up for our local communities. Look, the Democrat Party, this includes Joe Biden, this includes Kamala Harris, they are going towards socialism. And in order for socialism to work, you've got to do three things. You've got to destroy your local community, you've got to destroy the family unit, and you've got to destroy people's faith in God. And I'm telling you right now, the Republican Party, we stand for the exact opposite. I think we stand with a lot of minorities here. We believe in the local community. We believe in helping them making their decisions for themselves and keeping their community safe. We believe in the family unit. We believe in protecting the family unit and letting the morality that should be there and helping build and help families be able to afford things, affordable housing, putting food on the table, and helping support them. And we believe in faith in God. We believe that our rights come from our Creator, that faith in God is important, and that we're going to fight for that and make sure that religious liberty stays in America, that people aren't pushed to do things that are against their beliefs. And when you look at those three concepts, community, family, faith, that's where we agree. That's where the Republican Party is standing in the gap, is we fight for every individual, not just your classic Republicans, but also the minorities across this country.